What is up, guys? It is Daily Duma, and today's topic is going to be population decline. Why I think a population collapse is inevitable and actually a good thing for humans in general. So let's get right into the video. So, why is population decline so inevitable? Well, it's because of soaring cost and just the increase in population on Earth. What a lot of people don't understand is logarithmic or exponential growth. Having worked in labs before, you see this in bacteria all the time, where basically by doubling every generation, it is absolutely astounding how quickly they can grow and how quickly that rate of growth can increase. What we are seeing is the same thing with humanity, where we went from under a billion people to what is it now, 8.5 billion in like less than 200 years. So I think they say something staggering like 30% of all humans ever in history are alive today. This is because of the exponential or logarithmic population explosion. Because of this, prices and just availability of goods have soared, right? Prices have soared, availability of goods is going down. You can see we can't build homes anymore affordably. We're having a lot of societal problems. Just things are getting worse and worse. Being currently in Beijing, I'm actually at the gym. I just done my workout for the day. Go see my last video on tips for your teens and 20s if you're interested in that. But you see it in Beijing, right? I believe the average home price here is almost $1 million for a small apartment. And, that is just one of those things that for, a Chinese salary, that is absolutely insane because I think in Chinese money, that's something like around 6 or 7 million of their yen or yen. So yeah, it's something crazy like that. I was discussing it with my wife yesterday, and we were just both discussing how if you are, let's say, a modern couple, that is almost impossible to get if you do not have help from your family or contributors to actually get housing. The same thing is being seen in America, where we've had exponential rises in housing prices. And this affects population because people are having kids later and later and they're having less kids. For example, 1 or 2 generations ago, my grandparents were having 2, 3 kids. My dad had 1 kid, and now I'm going to have probably no children. And this isn't because I really hate children or anything like that. I love children. Even though I am somewhat of an anti-natalist, that's a video we'll go into at a separate time because I think that's a really interesting topic. But realistically, the problem is with kids is no one can afford it right now. When they're focused on planning for their retirement, when they're focused on actually, getting rent, every month, getting food on the table. I mean, even retirement is something in my 30s that I just am barely able to think about, let alone adding children into the mix. And with the rising costs of childcare, with in terms of people finding the partners later, I was relatively lucky. I got married around 25, 26. But a lot of people now aren't getting married until their 30s. Well, that's, biologically not good for the chances of having kids. Then we also have to talk about, the microplastics in the environment. The lower testosterone has seen a huge decrease in, the amount of sperm that men are able to generate. This is just a medical fact. You can go look it up. But anyway, sperm counts are dramatically going down compared to historical averages. So all of these factors, but mainly the economic factors, are the big reasons why I feel a population collapse is pretty much inevitable. And but why is it a good thing? Why do I think this is a positive for the human species in general? For that, you really have to look at a situation of why is more population good? In the past, let's say you were working in agriculture, you were living on a farm, having more children was good because you would have more people to help you. You had plenty of land. They themselves could have farms. Having children had almost no negatives and had a lot of, realistic, practical benefits. But now having kids is kind of, anti-conductive to having a modern life. because of the cost of childcare, because of the cost of the educational system, finding good schools for your children, after school events, books, just the list goes on and on. The cost of having a child is immense nowadays, but the actual benefits are very, very minimal if you think about it. Like, what other than the like spiritual or the love of children, that kind of thing, what practical benefit does having a child give you? And why is having less children desirable for society? Well, I think it's desirable just because of the pie analogy. Let's say we have a blueberry pie, and that blueberry pie has 12 slices. If, for example, on Earth we had 12 people, then everyone would get a slice. But if we only had 4 people, obviously everyone would get 3 slices. So realistically, with AI, with things that are almost inevitable, and go look at my AI video if you are interested in that. With the rise of AI, we're going to be able to produce more with less human beings. So previously, the idea would be that if we had less human beings, we could actually produce less. And therefore, we wouldn't have that whole pie. We would, maybe only have 10 slices instead of 12 slices because we would have a smaller pie. But if we can produce the same 12 slices, then having more people is just bad. It's just simply bad. There's no benefit, and having less people is naturally good. And so this is why I believe realistically going into the future, having, children is going to become a very sacred privilege. It's going to be something that, the community raises the child. Maybe one in 2 people, 1 in 3 people will have one child. Very rarely will people have 2 to 3 children unless they're very wealthy. I'm planning to do a separate video about the wealth inequality problem, which is, I think, probably the single biggest problem affecting humanity. But realistically, this population collapse is happening everywhere. It's happening here in Asia, most certainly. China is one of the leaders, obviously, with the one-child policy for so many years. Now, actually, people are encouraged to have children in China, but realistically, just because of job pressures, economic pressures, things of that nature, people are still choosing not to have children. So realistically, in China, it's a big deal. Obviously, India, it's a big deal. I think we all know the situation in Korea and Japan. They're like the poster child for people not having children, ironically enough. So I think in those societies, we are going to be seeing the population collapse immensely. Now, how does this tie into everyday life? Well, as you have a population collapse, housing prices will dramatically drop, which is very beneficial. Labor strength, or the strength of the average worker, will increase, another huge benefit. So, in a lot of ways, guys, I think seeing this trend of people having less children is overall good. But of course, there is a price to be paid, and that price is being borne by the millennials and Gen Z. Because realistically, to achieve all of these good long term benefits, someone has to suffer not having children. And ultimately, that cost is being borne maybe a little bit by Gen X, but mainly by millennials and Gen Z. I think by the time Gen Alpha becomes adults, I think we'll already see the population reduction, and it'll be less apparent in their generation. But for millennials, probably primarily, and Gen Z, secondarily, I think those two will be the big generations, which will be kind of the childless generation. So anyway, guys, I wanted to make this video a little bit shorter. I have some things that I have to do today. But yeah, give me your thoughts. What do you think? Are we going to continue to see a population reduction? When will you think it will peak? I think it'll be somewhere between like 2080 and 2120. And realistically, what do you think about it? Do you think it's positive? Do you think there's drawbacks that I'm not mentioning? What do you guys think? Thank you again, guys, and I'll see you in the next Daily Duma vlog.